A promising young Jedi apprentice dreams of becoming the greatest warrior who ever lived. That dream will turn into the galaxy's worst nightmare. Quickly, before we dive into the entire story of Freedon Nadd, run to the comment section and leave a comment where you're listening to this documentary from. It is fascinating to see how far our lore community stretches. Now, onto the story. Born around 4,400 before Battle of Yavin, Freedon Nadd arrived at the Jedi Academy on Ossus 400 years before the Great Sith War. The Academy sits on this ancient world like a beacon of learning, its halls filled with students from across the galaxy. But none of them shine as bright as this new arrival. The Jedi Masters can barely believe what they're seeing. Freedon Nadd connects to the Force in ways that leave even experienced teachers amazed. His natural abilities blow past what most students achieve after years of training. The renowned Master Onderon, one of the Order's most respected figures, watches Nadd work and sees something special. This kid doesn't just want to learn about the Force. He hungers for it. His eagerness for harmony and balance impresses every teacher who works with him. The Masters start whispering among themselves that Nadd might become a Jedi Master faster than any student in Academy history. His understanding of the Force runs deeper than his age should allow. Multiple Masters take turns training him because no single teacher can keep up with his progress. They pass him around like a prize student, each one eager to see what new abilities he'll develop under their guidance. Even as a mere apprentice, Nadd wields Force powers that rival what veteran Jedi can do. His raw talent makes other students look like beginners. His lightsaber skills develop just as quickly. Master Matter Tremaine becomes his primary combat instructor, teaching him the forms and techniques that separate true warriors from simple Force users. Tremaine is known throughout the Academy as one of the finest blade masters of her generation. Yet Nadd's prowess nearly matches hers despite being her student. His natural speed and reflexes let him keep pace with someone who's been fighting for decades. The other Jedi expect greatness from this young man. They see him moving through training exercises that challenge experienced knights. They watch him solve problems that stump older students. Everything about Nadd screams future Jedi Master, maybe even future member of the High Council. But Nadd himself has bigger dreams than that. He doesn't just want to become a good Jedi or even a great one. He tells anyone who will listen that he plans to become the greatest Jedi who ever lived. The statement shows his confidence, but it also reveals something else: pride. The kind of pride that makes Jedi Masters nervous when they see it in their students. Still, his abilities back up his boasting. Nadd breezes through lessons that leave his classmates struggling. He masters techniques in weeks that normally take months to learn. His connection to the Force grows stronger with each passing day, as if the energy of life itself wants to flow through him. Time passes at the Academy, and Nadd continues excelling at everything he attempts. His knowledge expands beyond just Force powers and lightsaber combat. He studies Jedi history, philosophy, and the ancient ways that shaped the Order. Every subject comes easily to him, like his mind was built to absorb this kind of learning. Eventually, Nadd decides he's ready for the next step. He's mastered everything his teachers have shown him. His skills rival those of actual Jedi Knights. His understanding of the Force runs deeper than many older students. In his mind, there's no question that he deserves promotion to full Jedi status. The next knighting ceremony approaches, and Nadd prepares himself for what he sees as his inevitable advancement. He's watched other students get elevated to knight rank with abilities far below his own. Some of them struggled with basic techniques that he mastered years ago. If they're ready to become knights, then he must be more than ready. Nadd rehearses his acceptance speech. He imagines taking the oath that will make him a full member of the Jedi Order. He pictures himself with his own Padawan someday, passing on the knowledge that came so naturally to him. The ceremony represents everything he's worked toward since arriving on Ossus. The day arrives and masters gather in the Academy's Great Hall. Students who've been selected for advancement stand before their teachers, ready to take the next step in their Jedi journey. Nadd waits among them, confident that his name will be called. His record speaks for itself. His abilities are undeniable. This moment belongs to him. One by one, the masters announce the new knights. Students step forward to receive their promotions, their faces glowing with pride and accomplishment. Each announcement builds Nadd's anticipation. Soon it will be his turn. Soon he'll hear his name called and join the ranks of true Jedi. But his name never comes. The ceremony continues without him. Other students he knows he surpasses in every way, get promoted while he stands there watching. His confidence starts to crack as the reality sets in. The masters are passing him over entirely. They're denying him the promotion he's earned, the advancement he deserves. The final announcements echo through the hall, and Nadd's name still hasn't been spoken. The new knights celebrate with their families and friends while he stands there in shock. The boy who expected to become the greatest Jedi who ever lived can't even become a basic knight. Confusion floods his mind as he struggles to understand what just happened. His progress has been obvious to everyone. His abilities exceed most of the students who just got promoted. His dedication to the Jedi path has never been questioned. So why did the masters skip over him like he doesn't exist? The devastation hits him like a physical blow. All his confidence, all his certainty about his place in the Order crumbles in an instant. The future he'd planned, the destiny he'd seen for himself, vanishes because a group of old masters decided he's not ready. Seeds of frustration plant themselves in his mind, seeds that will grow into something much darker. The young man who wanted to be the greatest Jedi ever is about to learn that disappointment can change a person in ways they never expect. The masters made their decision based on wisdom Nadd can't understand, but their choice will haunt the galaxy for centuries to come. Sometimes the most dangerous moment in a person's life comes right after they hear the word no. Freedon Nadd is about to prove just how true that can be. The rejection at the knighting ceremony eats away at him like poison. Days pass and he can't stop thinking about it. He watches the newly promoted knights walking around the academy, wearing their robes with pride while he's still stuck as a student. The unfairness of it burns in his chest every time he sees them. Nadd needs answers. He needs someone to explain why the masters passed him over when his abilities clearly surpass those who got promoted. The confusion and hurt inside him demand some kind of explanation, some reason that might make sense of this betrayal. He seeks out Master Matta Tremaine, his primary lightsaber instructor, and the woman who knows his combat skills better than anyone else. Tremaine has spent years training him, watching him develop into one of the finest blade fighters the Academy has ever seen. If anyone can give him answers, it should be her. Nadd finds her in one of the practice chambers, working through combat forms with the fluid grace that made her famous throughout the Jedi Order. She moves like water flowing over stone, each motion perfect and controlled. Her reputation as the Order's premier lightsaber combat instructor didn't come from luck or politics. She earned it through decades of dedication to the art of the blade. He approaches during her session, expecting her to stop and acknowledge him. Instead, she continues her practice routine as if he's not even there. The dismissal stings worse than the ceremony rejection. This woman trained him personally, shaped his fighting style, praised his natural abilities. Now she won't even look at him. The tense weight stretches out as Nadd stands there watching her ignore him. His emotions build like pressure in a sealed container. All the hurt and confusion from the ceremony mixes with this new slight until something inside him snaps completely. He explodes in anger, his voice echoing off the chamber walls as years of bottled frustration pour out. Nadd accuses Tremaine and all the other masters of holding him back on purpose. He tells her they're afraid of losing their power to someone younger and more talented. The old guard is keeping him down because they know he'll surpass them all if given the chance. The accusation hangs in the air between them like a challenge. Tremaine finally stops her practice and turns to face her former student. Her response cuts deeper than any lightsaber could. She tells him that he needs to find insight on his own before he can become a true Jedi. The power he craves won't come from promotion ceremonies or recognition from others. It has to come from within. Her words only make his rage worse. Nadd hears wisdom disguised as another rejection. He sees more politics wrapped up in philosophical talk. Everything she says sounds like another excuse to keep him from getting what he's earned through years of hard work and natural talent. The fury building inside him reaches a breaking point. Nadd makes a decision that will change everything. He ignites his lightsaber right there in the practice chamber, the blade humming with deadly energy. The weapon he's wielded in training exercises now becomes something else entirely. A threat, a promise, a line crossed that can never be uncrossed. He makes a vow that seals his fate. Nadd declares he'll prove himself with or without the Master's approval. Their permission doesn't matter anymore. Their blessing means nothing to him now. He'll show them what real power looks like, whether they want to see it or not. Tremaine responds by igniting her own blade. The elderly Jedi Master has been fighting longer than Nadd has been alive. She's seen promising students fall to the dark side before, and she recognizes the signs. But instead of trying to talk him down, she does something unexpected. She dares him to prove he deserves the power he's demanding. The duel that follows becomes the stuff of Academy legend. Master and former student clash in the Ossus gardens with lightsabers flashing under the alien sun. The sound of their blades meeting echoes across the peaceful grounds where generations of Jedi have studied and meditated. Nadd brings everything he's learned to this fight. His youth and strength push against Tremaine's experience and wisdom. But despite her age, the old master's technique remains flawless. Every attack Nadd makes gets countered with moves he's never seen before. Every opening he thinks he finds closes before he can exploit it. The elderly Jedi proves why she earned her reputation as the Order's finest combat instructor. Her blade work flows like art, each movement precise and purposeful. Nadd struggles to keep pace with someone who's forgotten more about lightsaber combat than most Jedi ever learn. The battle stretches on with neither fighter giving ground. Nadd's raw power meets Tremaine's refined skill in a contest that could go either way. Sweat drips from his face as he presses his attack, determined to prove his superiority through sheer force of will. Then he sees it. an opening in Tremaine's defense that seems too perfect to be real. Her guard drops just enough to allow a killing strike. Nadd doesn't hesitate. He brings his blade around in an attack meant to end the fight forever. Only in the last second does he realize the truth. Tremaine deliberately lowered her defenses. She created the opening on purpose, giving him the chance to strike. As his blade falls toward her, understanding floods through him like ice water. This is all a test, one final lesson about the choices that define a person's path. But knowledge comes too late to stop what he started. His momentum carries the attack forward, even as his mind screams at him to pull back. The killing blow continues its arc toward his teacher, while time seems to slow around them. Tremaine deactivates her own saber in the final moment. She removes the last barrier between his blade and her life, making a choice that will echo through galactic history. The woman who taught him how to fight now teaches him something about the weight of irreversible decisions. The strike connects. Master Mata Tremaine falls, her body vanishing into the Force as Jedi do when they die at peace. Only her robes remain on the garden ground, empty fabric that once held one of the Order's greatest warriors. The sight burns itself into Nadd's memory forever. Horror washes over him as the reality sinks in. He's killed his own teacher. The woman who trained him, who saw potential in him, who tried to guide him toward wisdom, lies dead by his hand. The lightsaber that was supposed to be used for defense and protection has become an instrument of betrayal. But the shock doesn't last long. Grief transforms into something much more dangerous as Nadd's mind works to protect itself from guilt. He convinces himself that the Masters drove him to this tragedy as part of some cruel trial. They manipulated him into this moment, forced his hand through their rejection and games. The blame shifts away from his own choices and lands squarely on those who denied him what he deserved. Tremaine brought her own death by creating the test. The other Masters caused this by passing him over at the ceremony. None of this would have happened if they'd simply given him the rank he'd earned. Nadd refuses to feel guilt for what happened. Instead, he lets bitterness and anger fill the space where remorse should live. The emotions feed something dark inside him, something that grows stronger as his hatred deepens. The Jedi path that once seemed so clear now looks like a lie designed to hold him back. Right there in the garden where his teacher died, Freedon Nadd renounces the Jedi Order completely. He casts aside years of training and dedication like a worn-out robe. The dream of becoming the greatest Jedi who ever lived dies with Master Tremaine, replaced by something much more dangerous. Rage propels him away from Ossus and everything it represents. Nadd flees in his starship, leaving behind the only life he's ever known. But he's not running towards safety or redemption. He's racing toward something that will make his fall from grace look like a gentle stumble. His destination is the heart of the old Sith Empire, those dark regions where ancient enemies of the Jedi once ruled with power beyond imagination. The boy who wanted to be the greatest Jedi now hungers for vengeance against everything he once held sacred. His new goal burns with the intensity of a dying star. Freedon Nadd is determined to become the most powerful Sith sorcerer who ever lived. The galaxy has no idea what kind of monster it's about to unleash. Finding the ancient enemy of everything you once believed in takes more than just hatred. It takes dedication to searching in all the darkest corners of the galaxy. Nadd's starship carries him away from everything familiar into the remote regions where the old Sith Empire once ruled. These areas stretch across space like scars left by an ancient wound. The Great Hyperspace War ended decades ago, leaving behind worlds that remember what it felt like when dark power flowed freely through the galaxy. His journey becomes a pilgrimage in reverse. Instead of seeking enlightenment and peace, he hunts for forbidden knowledge and power that the Jedi would never teach. Every planet he visits might hold the key to unlocking abilities that could make him stronger than any master who rejected him. The desolation of former Sith space strikes him immediately. Worlds that once thrived under dark rule now sit empty or barely inhabited. Cities that housed Sith lords and their followers have crumbled into ruins overgrown by alien vegetation. The empire that challenged the Republic for galactic domination has left behind only ghosts and memories. Nadd's first major stop takes him to Ossus, a world where ancient secrets wait in forgotten vaults. The planet holds the kind of treasures that historians dream about finding. Buried in ruins that predate the recent wars, he discovers something that makes his dangerous journey worthwhile. The lost Sith holocron of King Ossus sits in a chamber where it's been waiting for centuries. This isn't just any artifact. King Ossus ruled the original Sith species long before humans ever learned about the dark side. His holocron contains knowledge that goes back to the very beginning of Sith culture and power. The device had been lost for generations after a Sith Lord named Garu misplaced it during some forgotten conflict. Countless dark side practitioners probably searched for this holocron over the years, but Nadd is the one who finally recovers it. Maybe the Force guides him to it, or maybe his desperation makes him more thorough than previous seekers. Opening the holocron floods his mind with secrets the Jedi never wanted anyone to learn. King Ossus speaks to him across the centuries, teaching him about power that comes from embracing anger and hatred instead of fighting against them. The ancient Sith shows him techniques that turn emotions into weapons stronger than any lightsaber. Nadd absorbs every lesson the holocron offers. He studies the recordings until he knows them by heart, practicing the dark side abilities that King Ossus demonstrates. His connection to the Force begins changing as he feeds it with emotions the Jedi taught him to suppress. Anger makes him stronger. Hatred sharpens his focus. Fear of failure drives him to push harder than he ever did at the Academy. But finding one holocron doesn't satisfy his hunger for knowledge. Nadd wants more than ancient recordings. He needs living teachers who can guide him beyond what any device can offer. The search for actual Sith practitioners begins as he moves from world to world, looking for survivors of the old empire. The disappointment grows with each empty planet he visits. Former Sith strongholds stand abandoned, their temples reduced to rubble by time and Republic attacks. The species that originally created the Sith culture has vanished completely, leaving behind only ruins and artifacts. Every world tells the same story of a civilization that died with its empire. Nadd starts to wonder if his quest is hopeless. Maybe the Sith really are extinct. Maybe he'll have to piece together their knowledge from fragments and recordings without ever meeting someone who truly understands the dark side. The loneliness of his journey begins eating at him as he realizes he might be the only person in the galaxy seeking this forbidden path. Just as his search seems destined for failure, Nadd hears something that changes everything. Rumors reach him through the galactic underworld, whispered stories that most people dismiss as legend. They speak of Naga Sadow, a dark lord of the Sith who supposedly escaped the destruction of his people. According to these tales, Sadow didn't die with the rest of the Sith leadership. He fled to the remote moon Yavin 4 at the end of the Hyperspace War and has been hiding there ever since. The stories describe him as the last living connection to the old Sith Empire, a master of dark side knowledge who survived by going into exile. Most sensible beings would laugh at such rumors. Sadow would have to be incredibly old to still be alive after all these years. The idea that a Sith Lord is just sitting on some jungle moon waiting for students seems too convenient to be true. But Nadd isn't looking for sensible answers anymore. The possibility that a real Sith Master might still exist rekindles his ambition like fuel thrown on dying flames. This could be exactly what he needs. A teacher who learned directly from the old Empire. Someone who can show him secrets that no holocron could contain. A living link to power that the Jedi fear more than anything else in the galaxy. Nadd charts a course for Yavin 4 without hesitation. The moon sits in the Yavin system like a green jewel covered in dense jungle. If the rumors are true, somewhere in those endless forests waits the last Dark Lord of the Sith. If they're false, at least he'll know he tried every possible lead in his search for forbidden knowledge. The journey to Yavin 4 feels different from his other travels. This isn't just another stop in his wandering quest. This might be his destination, the place where his real education begins. Everything he's learned so far has been preparation for whatever waits in those alien jungles. His ship descends through Yavin 4's atmosphere toward a world that holds either his greatest hope or his final disappointment. The canopy below stretches endlessly in every direction, hiding secrets that could transform him into something the galaxy has never seen before. Or it could hide nothing but more empty ruins and broken dreams. The dark side stirs around him as his ship approaches the surface. Something powerful lives on this moon, something that recognizes his hunger for knowledge and power. Whether it's Naga Sadow or some other remnant of the old empire, Nadd can feel it calling to him through the Force. He's about to meet whatever has been waiting for him in these jungles. The boy who wanted to become the greatest Jedi who ever lived is finally ready to learn what it takes to become the most powerful Sith sorcerer instead. The galaxy will never be the same once his real training begins. Sometimes finding what you're looking for turns out to be more complicated than the search itself. Nadd is about to learn that getting a Sith Master means accepting everything that comes with one. His ship touches down on Yavin 4's surface in a clearing surrounded by ancient trees that stretch toward the sky like gnarled fingers. The air feels thick with humidity and something else. Power. Dark side energy flows through this moon like blood through veins, and Nadd can feel it calling to him from the moment he steps outside. The jungle seems alive in ways that normal forests aren't. Shadows move when nothing should be casting them. Sounds echo from directions that make no sense. This isn't just a world where Sith once lived. It's a place where the dark side itself has taken root and grown wild over the centuries. Before Nadd can venture far from his landing site, he discovers he's not alone on this moon. The Massassi emerge from the jungle like red ghosts, their skin the color of dried blood and their eyes burning with barely controlled aggression. These aren't ordinary beings. They're warriors mutated by Sith alchemy into something stronger and more savage than their original species. The Massassi attack without warning, treating Nadd like any other intruder who dares to set foot on their sacred ground. Their weapons are primitive but deadly, and they move with the coordination of a pack that's hunted together for generations. Under normal circumstances, a single person wouldn't stand a chance against so many trained fighters. But Nadd isn't ordinary anymore. The dark side knowledge he absorbed from King Adas's holocron flows through him like liquid fire. His growing power lets him fight back against the red-skinned warriors with abilities that surprise even him. Force lightning crackles from his fingers, while telekinetic waves send attackers flying into trees. The battle rages through the jungle, with Nadd giving as good as he gets. These Massassi are tough opponents, bred for war and strengthened by their master's alchemy. But his connection to the dark side grows stronger with each moment of combat, fed by the violence and his determination to survive. Something changes in the Massassi during the fight. They start to recognize that this intruder possesses real power, not just the desperation of someone who stumbled into their territory by accident. The quality of his dark side ability speaks to them in ways their primitive minds can understand. The assault stops as suddenly as it began. The Massassi warriors pull back and study Nadd with new eyes, seeing him as something more than prey. Their crude intelligence grasps that he might be worthy of meeting the being they serve. The strength he's shown in combat has earned him passage deeper into their domain. Without words, they gesture for him to follow. The procession moves through the jungle along paths that only the Massassi know, winding between massive trees and around ancient stone structures that hint at the civilization that once flourished here. The architecture speaks of power and knowledge that goes back thousands of years. They lead him to the main temple of Yavin, a pyramid that rises from the jungle floor like a mountain carved by intelligent hands. The structure radiates dark side energy so strongly that Nadd can feel it pressing against his consciousness. Whatever waits inside has been gathering power for longer than most civilizations have existed. The temple's interior stretches into darkness, broken only by the dim glow of ancient technology still functioning after all these centuries. The Massassi guide him through corridors lined with carvings that tell the story of their master's rise to power. These walls have witnessed the fall of the old Sith Empire and the exile that followed. In the deepest chamber of the temple, Nadd finally finds what he's been searching for across the galaxy. Naga Sadow lies in suspended animation, his body preserved by Sith alchemy and technology that defies understanding. The Dark Lord looks exactly as he did when he fled into exile, untouched by the centuries that have passed since the hyperspace war ended. Nadd approaches the sleeping figure with something approaching religious awe. This is Naga Sadow, the legendary Sith Lord who challenged the Republic and nearly won. The man who commanded fleets and wielded power that reshaped worlds. The last connection to an empire that once ruled half the galaxy. He awakens Sadow from his long slumber through the Force, calling to the consciousness that has been dormant for so long. The ancient Sith Lord's eyes open slowly, adjusting to light they haven't seen in generations. When his gaze falls on Nadd, recognition sparks immediately. Sadow senses the potential radiating from this young man like heat from a forge. The fallen Jedi carries exactly the kind of hunger and ambition that made the old empire strong. Here stands someone worthy of receiving the knowledge that died with the Sith species. Someone who might carry their legacy forward into a new age. Without hesitation, Sado accepts Freedon Nadd as his new apprentice. The decision feels inevitable, as if the Force itself has guided events to bring them together. The last Dark Lord of the old Empire will teach the first Dark Lord of whatever comes next. Under Sado's guidance, Nadd plunges into studies that would have horrified his old Jedi teachers. Sith magic and sorcery become his new curriculum, replacing the philosophy and restraint that the Ossus Academy tried to instill in him. His master shows him how to channel raw emotion into power that can reshape reality itself. The arcane arts of the Sith open before him, like doors he never knew existed. Sado teaches him to manipulate life and death, to bend other minds to his will, to draw strength from pain and fear. The history of the old empire unfolds through lessons that explain how the Sith once ruled through strength rather than politics. Nadd proves to be everything Sado hoped for in a student. He absorbs knowledge faster than most beings could process it, mastering techniques that take normal apprentices years to understand. His natural abilities combine with Sith training to create something that surpasses what either could achieve alone. Time passes on Yavin 4, with Nadd growing stronger under his master's tutelage. Days blend into months as he learns secrets that have been hidden since the fall of the old empire. His power expands exponentially, fed by teachings that unlock potential he never knew he possessed. But success brings its own problems. A fundamental truth of Sith culture starts to chafe against Nadd's ambitions like a poorly fitted collar. Only one being can hold the title of Dark Lord of the Sith at any given time. As long as Sado lives and claims that position, Nadd will always be nothing more than an apprentice. The limitation grates against everything he believed about his own destiny. He came to Yavin 4 to become the most powerful Sith sorcerer who ever lived, not to spend forever as someone else's student. The title of Dark Lord represents everything he's worked toward since leaving Ossus. Pride makes the situation worse as Nadd's abilities continue growing. He starts to believe that he's learned all Naga Sado has to offer, that continued study under his master is just wasting time he could spend claiming his rightful place. The ambitious student begins to resent the teacher who opened these doors for him. The hunger for the Dark Lord's mantle grows stronger with each passing day. Nadd looks at his aging master and sees an obstacle standing between him and his destiny. The man who gave him everything he wanted now represents everything holding him back from what he deserves. The ancient Sith tradition that seemed so natural when he first arrived on Yavin 4 now feels like a chain around his neck. Only one Dark Lord at a time means that Sado's continued existence prevents Nadd from reaching his full potential. And for someone who's already killed his own Jedi Master, removing another teacher doesn't seem like such an impossible step. The most dangerous moment in any teacher's life comes when their student decides they've learned enough. For Naga Sado, that moment is about to arrive with the force of a lightsaber through the heart. Nadd's resentment toward his master grows like a cancer eating away at what remains of his loyalty. Every day spent as an apprentice feels like time stolen from his true destiny. The title of Dark Lord calls to him from just beyond his reach, blocked only by the ancient Sith whose continued existence prevents him from claiming what he deserves. The decision forms in his mind gradually, then all at once. Nadd will overthrow Naga Sado and take the Dark Lord's mantle for himself. The plan requires careful preparation because his master didn't survive the fall of the Sith Empire by being careless or weak. Sado remains formidable despite his age, and underestimating him would be fatal. First, Nadd ensures that all the knowledge he's gained won't die with his master. He spends months carefully compiling everything Sado has taught him into a holocron of his own making. The device will preserve Sith lore for future generations while proving that he's mastered the most advanced techniques of their order. Creating the holocron requires abilities that push him to his limits. The process demands perfect understanding of every lesson, every technique, every secret that Sado has shared. Nadd pours his essence into the device, ensuring that the knowledge of ages will survive whatever comes next. The holocron becomes more than just a repository of information. It represents his graduation from student to master, proof that he's absorbed everything the old Sith Empire had to offer. When future dark side practitioners find this device, they'll learn from Freedon Nadd himself rather than the masters who came before him. With the knowledge safely preserved, Nadd turns his attention to the final step in his ascension. The murder of Naga Sadow requires perfect timing and absolute commitment. His master suspects nothing, believing that his faithful apprentice remains dedicated to their shared goals. The moment arrives when Sadow is most vulnerable, perhaps during meditation or while working on some arcane project. Nadd strikes without warning, using everything his master taught him to end the life of the one who gave him power. The irony isn't lost on him that Sith techniques are the weapon he turns against their greatest living practitioner. Naga Sadow falls to his own student's blade, joining the long tradition of Sith masters who die at the hands of their apprentices. The ancient Dark Lord who survived the fall of an empire finally meets his end in the temple where he thought he was safe. His death closes a chapter of galactic history that began with the first Sith species. With Sadow's life extinguished, nothing stands between Nadd and the title he's craved for so long. He declares himself the new Dark Lord of the Sith, claiming authority over an order that now consists of exactly one member. The usurpation follows classic Sith tradition where strength determines leadership and loyalty means nothing. Standing over his master's body in the Yavin Temple, Nadd finally holds the position he's dreamed about since his first taste of dark side power. But being Dark Lord of the Sith means nothing without subjects to rule or enemies to defeat. The title feels hollow when claimed in an empty temple on a forgotten moon. The new Dark Lord needs more than just power. He needs a kingdom worthy of his abilities, a realm where he can demonstrate what it means to rule through the dark side. The galaxy offers countless worlds that could serve his purposes, but he wants something special, a place where he can build an empire that reflects his vision of what Sith leadership should accomplish. Armed with knowledge that spans millennia and artifacts looted from ancient Sith ruins, Nadd begins his search for the perfect domain. His ship carries treasures that predate most galactic civilizations, devices and weapons that could reshape any world he chooses to claim. The question isn't whether he can conquer what he finds, but which target deserves his attention. His wanderings through space eventually lead him to the Onderon system in the Inner Rim. The primary world catches his interest immediately. Onderon represents exactly what he's been looking for, a primitive planet ripe for domination by someone with his abilities. The world below him holds a single major city surrounded by wilderness filled with dangerous creatures. The civilization level reminds him of ancient times when individual power could reshape entire societies. Here, he could rule like the Sith lords of old, bending a population to his will through a combination of fear and dark side abilities. Onderon's isolation makes it perfect for his plans. The planet sits far enough from major trade routes that galactic powers won't interfere with his activities. Its people have never encountered real Sith sorcery, leaving them unprepared for the kind of power he brings. Their primitive technology poses no threat to someone who's mastered arcane arts that predate their entire civilization. Nadd makes his move with the confidence of someone who's already won. His ship descends through Onderon's atmosphere toward the walled city of Iziz, the planet's capital and seat of what passes for government here. The monarchs who rule this world have no idea that their reign is about to end in fire and sorcery. Using the power he's mastered under Sadau's training, Nadd assaults the existing monarchy with forces they can't comprehend or resist. His Sith magic tears through their defenses like paper, while his knowledge of warfare makes their military strategies look like children's games. The king and queen who once ruled Onderon find themselves facing a nightmare beyond their understanding. The conquest happens so quickly that most citizens barely realize their world has changed hands. One day, they live under familiar rulers who've governed for generations. The next day, a dark sorcerer sits on the throne, wielding power that makes their old monarchs look like helpless children. Nadd seizes control of Iziz and the surrounding territories with the efficiency of someone who's studied how empires rise and fall. He doesn't just defeat the previous rulers, he erases them so completely that their names disappear from history, becoming footnotes in the story of his ascension. The deposed king and queen vanish into the kind of obscurity that suggests they met unpleasant ends. Their supporters either flee, submit, or join them in whatever fate Nadd deemed appropriate for those who opposed his rule. The transition from their reign to his happens so thoroughly that within months it feels like he's always been in charge. Standing in the throne room of the conquered palace, Freedon Nadd finally possesses everything he's worked toward since leaving Ossus. He rules as Dark Lord of the Sith over a kingdom that will serve as his testing ground for the kind of power he wants to wield across the galaxy. Onderon becomes his canvas for painting a masterpiece of dark side rule. The primitive world will learn what it means to be governed by someone who's studied under the last master of the ancient Sith Empire. Every citizen, every tradition, every aspect of their society will be reshaped according to his vision. The boy who wanted to be the greatest Jedi who ever lived has become the Dark Lord of the Sith, ruling over his own kingdom. The transformation is complete, but the story is just beginning. Nadd has found his throne, and now the galaxy will discover what kind of ruler emerges from the combination of Jedi training, Sith knowledge, and unlimited ambition. The people of Onderon are about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous masters are those who remember what it felt like to be denied what they deserved. Power corrupts, but absolute power creates monsters that reshape entire worlds in their own twisted image. Freedon Nadd is about to prove just how dark that transformation can become. With the throne of Onderon secured, Nadd wastes no time establishing what kind of ruler he intends to be. He proclaims himself King of Onderon and makes it clear that his reign will be different from anything the planet has experienced before. The old ways of governing through tradition and consensus disappear overnight, replaced by rule through fear and dark side power. From his palace in the fortified city of Iziz, Nadd begins reshaping Onderonian society according to his vision of what civilization should look like. The changes start immediately and touch every aspect of daily life. Citizens who once followed familiar customs and beliefs suddenly find themselves living in a world where everything they thought they knew has been turned upside down. Nadd introduces Sith lore to people who have never heard of the dark side. Ancient rituals that predate their civilization become part of their daily routine. Magic that defies everything they understand about how the universe works becomes commonplace in their streets. The transformation happens so quickly that many citizens struggle to adapt to their new reality. The Sith teachings spread through Izis like wildfire, carried by those who see opportunity in embracing what their new king offers. Nadd doesn't just rule through terror, he provides genuine power to those willing to accept his philosophy. Citizens who learn his rituals and magic gain abilities their neighbors lack, creating a social hierarchy based on dark side knowledge. Under his dominion, many Onderonians come to revere Nadd almost like a god king. His demonstrations of power go far beyond what their old monarchs could accomplish. When he speaks, reality itself seems to bend around his words. When he gestures, impossible things happen that prove he possesses abilities that transcend normal understanding. The culture of Onderon transforms as Sith worship becomes the dominant force in society. Temples dedicated to dark side practices rise in the city, while older religious sites get converted or destroyed. Art and literature begin reflecting themes of power, domination, and the strength that comes from embracing hatred and fear. Many citizens embrace these changes enthusiastically because Nadd's teachings offer them something their old culture never could. The promise of real power appeals to people who've always felt helpless against the dangers of their world. His magic provides solutions to problems that previously seemed unsolvable. But Nadd's rule comes with a price that not everyone is willing to pay. His tyranny may offer power to the faithful, but it shows no mercy to those who resist. The king who once dreamed of being the greatest Jedi now demonstrates what happens when someone with his abilities abandons all restraint. Dissent is not tolerated within the walls of Izis. Citizens who reject Nadd's authority or refuse to adopt Sith ways face consequences that serve as examples to others. The Dark Lord doesn't believe in rehabilitation or second chances. Those who oppose him get one opportunity to change their minds, and failure to do so results in permanent exile from the city. Banishment from Izis means being cast out into Onderon's untamed wilderness, where survival depends on skills most city dwellers never developed. The wilds beyond the protective walls teem with vicious predators that see exiled humans as easy prey. Flying Drexels hunt from the skies, while ground-based creatures like bomas patrol the forests looking for victims. Many of these beasts originally came from Duxan, Onderon's demon moon, making them even more dangerous than normal predators. They've evolved in an environment where only the strongest and most cunning survive, and they bring that same ruthlessness to their hunting on the main world. The exiles face what seems like certain death in this hostile environment. Most citizens expect the banished to die within days of leaving the city, consumed by creatures they have no hope of fighting. The punishment appears designed to eliminate opposition while maintaining the fiction that Nadd isn't simply executing dissidents. Yet something remarkable happens in the wilderness. The outcasts don't just die like everyone expects. Instead, they adapt and learn to survive in ways that surprise even themselves. Desperation and the will to live drive them to develop skills they never knew they possessed. Over months and years, these exiles accomplish something that seems impossible. They learn to tame Onderon's beasts, turning the very creatures that were supposed to kill them into allies and mounts. The flying Drexels that once hunted them become their transportation, while other predators serve as weapons in their growing arsenal. The survivors become known as the Beast Riders, a name that captures both their greatest achievement and their primary means of warfare. These former citizens of Iziz have transformed from helpless exiles into a new kind of warrior, one that fights alongside creatures most people would rather avoid entirely. The Beast Riders harbor deep hatred for Nadd's oppressive regime and everything it represents. Their exile cost them homes, families, and the lives they built before his arrival. Now they wage a continuous civil war against the city that cast them out, launching raids designed to weaken Nadd's hold on power. Their attacks catch Iziz's defenders off guard because no one expected the exiles to survive, let alone organize into an effective fighting force. The Beast Riders strike from the air using their Drexel mounts, hit targets inside the city walls, and disappear back into the wilderness before Nadd's forces can respond effectively. Freedon Nadd fights back using every tool at his disposal. His Sith sorcery provides abilities that the Beast Riders can't match, while the advanced technology he's introduced to Iziz gives his defenders weapons their enemies lack. But the conflict proves more challenging than he anticipated. The civil war that begins with these raids eventually becomes known as the Beast Wars, a name that captures the decades of violence between Nadd's regime and the exiles it created. The conflict stretches on far longer than anyone expected, with neither side able to achieve total victory over the other. Nadd's dark reign over Onderon lasts for over a century, longer than most civilizations remember their own histories. His rule becomes so entrenched that entire generations grow up knowing no other form of government. The Sith culture he introduced becomes as much a part of Onderon as its native species. The intense dark side aura that surrounds the planet grows stronger with each passing year. Nadd's presence and the rituals he's taught his followers create a concentration of evil energy that begins attracting attention from across the galaxy. Sensitive individuals can feel the wrongness emanating from Onderon, even from neighboring star systems. Eventually, rumors of his tyranny and the ongoing Beast Wars reach the Jedi Order. Tales of a fallen Jedi ruling as a Sith Lord disturb the Council more than typical reports of planetary conflicts. They recognize that Nadd represents everything they fear about what can happen when their training fails to prevent a student's fall to darkness. The Jedi Council resolves to intervene, not just to liberate Onderon, but to confront the living symbol of their greatest failure. A task force of experienced Jedi Knights receives orders to travel to Onderon and end Nadd's reign permanently. The strike team that arrives represents some of the Order's most capable warriors, individuals chosen specifically for their ability to face dark side practitioners in combat. They come prepared for a fight against someone who combines Jedi training with Sith knowledge, a combination that makes him uniquely dangerous. A great battle erupts when the Jedi forces engage Nadd's armies in and around Iziz. The conflict showcases abilities on both sides that ordinary beings can barely comprehend. Lightsabers clash, while Force powers reshape the battlefield in ways that defy natural law. Nadd's formidable powers and his armies of dark side followers make the battle closer than the Jedi anticipated. His century of rule has given him resources and loyal troops that prove surprisingly effective against their assault. For a time, it looks like his forces might actually repel the intervention. But the Jedi's training and coordination eventually overcome Nadd's raw power and the fervor of his followers. His troops fall in battle, while his defenses crumble under the sustained assault of opponents who refuse to be intimidated by his sorcery. In the end, Freedon Nadd himself falls to the Jedi strike team. The man who once dreamed of becoming the greatest Jedi who ever lived dies at the hands of those who represent everything he abandoned. His physical life ends along with his open tyranny over Onderon. The Dark Lord, who ruled a world for over a century, becomes just another casualty in the eternal struggle between light and darkness. But death, as Nadd will soon discover, doesn't always mean the end of a Sith Lord's influence. Death is supposed to be the end of someone's story, but some people refuse to accept that rule. Freedon Nadd is about to prove that dying doesn't always mean your influence has to die with you. The Jedi who defeated Nadd thought they were solving a problem, but they had no idea they were actually making it worse. They killed his physical body and ended his open rule over Onderon, yet his story was far from over. The Dark Lord had spent too many years learning Sith secrets to let something as simple as death stop his plans. Nadd's remains get interred beneath the royal palace of Iziz in a tomb carved deep into the bedrock. The chamber becomes more than just a burial site. It transforms into a focal point for dark side energy that radiates throughout the planet like poison spreading through water. The very stones seem to absorb the evil that once walked among the living. His spirit refuses to move on to whatever lies beyond life. Instead of accepting death like a normal person, Nadd binds himself to the physical realm through sheer force of will and dark side power. The tomb becomes his anchor, keeping him connected to the world he once ruled with an iron fist. As a disembodied spirit, Freedon Nadd discovers that death actually offers certain advantages. He no longer needs to worry about physical limitations or the passage of time. His influence can spread in ways that would have been impossible while trapped in a mortal body. The planet he claimed in life becomes his eternal domain in death. For centuries after his physical death, Onderon remains steeped in the dark side, like a world cursed by its own history. The Sith teachings he introduced don't disappear with their teacher. Instead, they become part of the planet's culture, passed down from generation to generation like a family secret that grows more dangerous with time. The legacy proves especially strong among the royal line that descends from Nadd's reign. His influence flows through their bloodline like a genetic curse, making each generation more susceptible to the dark side's call. The throne he once occupied becomes a conduit for power that reaches beyond the grave. Generations of Onderonian monarchs discover they can tap into something their ancestors left behind. The rulers of Iziz learn to summon Freedon Nadd's spirit from the netherworld, calling him back to the land of the living whenever they need guidance in the arcane arts he mastered. Nadd responds to these summons eagerly because they serve his own agenda. Each time he teaches another descendant about Sith magic, he strengthens his connection to the physical world. The knowledge he shares becomes a chain that binds his heirs to the same darkness that consumed him. One of his most notable students emerges in the form of King Omin, a ruler who happens to be Nadd's great-great-grandson. Omin inherits more than just the throne. He carries a hunger for forbidden knowledge that mirrors what once drove his ancestor down the path of darkness. Nadd's spirit appears to Omin regularly, providing personal instruction in Sith sorcery that spans years of secret training. The dead Dark Lord finds a willing pupil in this descendant who shares his ambition and disregard for conventional morality. Their relationship becomes a twisted form of mentorship that bridges the gap between life and death. The training sessions happen in hidden chambers beneath the palace, where no one else can witness what passes between the living king and his spectral ancestor. Omin learns techniques that would horrify the Jedi while absorbing philosophy that justifies any action in pursuit of power. This mentorship remains secret from Omin's wife, Queen Aminoa, until she eventually discovers what her husband has been doing. The revelation that she's married to a Sith disciple comes as a shock that initially drives her into despair. Her world crumbles as she realizes the man she loves serves something evil. But Nadd sees opportunity in Aminoa's distress. Her vulnerability makes her perfect for corruption, and her position as queen gives her influence he can exploit. The spirit begins working on her mind with the same patient cunning he once used to turn promising Jedi into willing servants of darkness. He lets her envy and bitterness toward Omin's secret power fester into something more dangerous. The feelings of betrayal and inadequacy that consume her become weapons Nadd can use to pull her toward the dark side. Soon she's learning the same forbidden arts that captured her husband's soul. Nadd begins training Aminoa in Sith magic, just as he trained Omin, but with a crucial difference. He deliberately encourages competition between husband and wife, playing them against each other in their pursuit of mastery. The marriage becomes a battlefield where each spouse tries to surpass the other in dark side knowledge. This manipulation serves Nadd's ultimate goal, which goes far beyond simply spreading Sith influence. He wants to find a way to resurrect himself in a new body, returning to full life. The ritual required for such a feat demands someone with incredible skill in Sith alchemy. For decades, Omin and Aminoa hone their abilities under Nadd's guidance while continuing to rule Onderon and fight the ongoing war against the Beast Riders. The planet becomes a testing ground where the dead Dark Lord experiments with different approaches to corruption and control. But neither of his descendants proves capable of achieving what he needs most. King Omin's health deteriorates as the dark side power he wields begins consuming his body from within. The energies that make him strong also ravage his physical form, turning him into a decrepit figure who requires machinery and magic just to stay alive. Omin becomes so weakened by his pursuit of power that he eventually withdraws from public rule entirely. The king who once stood proud before his subjects transforms into a broken shell sustained only by the same forces that are destroying him. His condition serves as a warning about the price of dabbling in arts beyond mortal understanding. Queen Aminoa takes over the day-to-day governance of Onderon as her husband fades into a shadow of his former self. She intensifies the persecution of the Beast Riders, pushing the long-running conflict toward a crisis point that threatens to tear the planet apart completely. The Beast Wars reach their peak intensity as Aminoa's forces clash with the exiled riders in battles that grow more vicious with each passing year. The conflict that began with Nadd's original banishments now threatens to consume everything he built during his reign. Freedon Nadd watches these developments with growing frustration. Neither Omin nor Aminoa has developed the level of skill needed to perform the resurrection ritual he craves. His grand plan to return to life remains just out of reach, blocked by the limitations of students who prove less capable than he hoped. The realization that his heirs will never become powerful enough to restore him forces Nadd to consider other options. He begins preparing alternative plans that might achieve his goals through different means. But events on Onderon are building toward a climax that will force his hand before he's ready. The beast wars that have raged for generations are about to explode into something larger. Outside forces will soon intervene in Onderon's affairs, bringing new players into a game that Nadd has been controlling from beyond the grave. His influence over the planet he once ruled is about to face its greatest test since the day the Jedi struck him down. Sometimes the most dangerous advice comes from someone who wants to see you fail. Queen Aminoa is about to learn this lesson in the most devastating way possible. The beast wars that have raged for generations finally reach a breaking point that threatens to tear Onderon apart completely. The conflict between the city dwellers of Iziz and the exiled beast riders has grown more intense with each passing year. But now, it explodes into something that could destroy everything both sides have fought to protect. Queen Aminoa watches from her palace as the Beast Riders launch their most coordinated assault yet. Their flying mounts darken the sky above Iziz, while ground forces press against the city walls with unprecedented determination. The exiles who were supposed to die in the wilderness have become a military force that might actually overwhelm her defenses. Fear grips the queen as she realizes her forces might not be enough to repel this attack. The Beast Riders have learned too much about warfare during their years of exile. Their tactics have evolved beyond simple raids into something that resembles a proper siege. For the first time since taking power, Aminoa faces the possibility of total defeat. In desperation, she turns to the spirit who has guided her family for so long. Freedon Nadd appears in response to her summons, but his advice catches her completely off guard. He warns her that if the war fully breaks out, she will be destroyed. The prophecy terrifies her because Nadd has never been wrong about such matters before. The panicked queen misinterprets his warning completely. She thinks he means the Beast Riders will overwhelm her forces unless she gets help from outside. The idea of requesting aid from the Galactic Republic seems like the logical solution to a problem that threatens her survival. What Aminoa doesn't realize is that Nadd has his own reasons for pushing her toward this decision. His manipulation runs deeper than she understands, and his agenda extends far beyond helping her win a war. The spirit who has corrupted her family for generations is setting up his next move in a game she doesn't even know she's playing. Aminoa sends messages to the Republic requesting assistance against what she describes as a rebellion that threatens galactic stability. Her plea reaches the Jedi Council, who decide to investigate the situation on this distant world that has been in conflict for longer than most people remember. The Republic dispatches a team of experienced Jedi to handle what they believe is a straightforward peacekeeping mission. The group gets led by Arca Jeth, an Arcanian Jedi Master who serves as the guardian of the Onderon sector. His knowledge of the region makes him the obvious choice to lead this intervention. Joining him are some of the Order's most promising young knights. Ulic Keldroma and his brother Kay represent the new generation of Jedi warriors, while Nomi Sunrider brings skills that complement their abilities. Together, they form a team capable of handling whatever conflict they expect to find on Onderon. The Jedi arrive expecting to mediate between warring factions and restore peace through negotiation and wisdom. Instead, they discover a situation far more complex than their briefings suggested. The conflict isn't just about politics or territory. It involves forces that touch on everything the Jedi Order was founded to oppose. When diplomatic efforts with Queen Aminoa fail completely, the Jedi realize they're dealing with something much darker than a simple civil war. The Queen's refusal to consider reasonable compromise and her obvious connection to dark side power make it clear that negotiation won't solve this crisis. The Jedi make a decision that changes everything. They join forces with the Beast Riders, allying themselves with the exiled rebels against the corrupt monarchy that rules from Isis. The choice represents everything Nadd hoped would happen when he manipulated Aminoa into requesting their help. The assault on Isis begins with Jedi and Beast Riders fighting side by side against defenders who serve a regime steeped in dark side corruption. The battle rages through the streets of the ancient city as two very different concepts of justice clash in violent conflict. As the fighting intensifies, Queen Aminoa realizes her forces are losing ground despite their defensive advantages. The combination of Jedi abilities and Beast Rider tactics proves more effective than she anticipated. Her carefully planned defenses crumble under an assault that attacks from multiple directions simultaneously. In desperation, Aminoa retreats to the one place where she knows she can find the power needed to turn the tide. She flees deep beneath the palace to Freedon Nadd's tomb, the source of all the dark side energy that has corrupted her family for generations. Standing in the chamber where Nadd's remains rest, surrounded by centuries of accumulated evil, Aminoa calls upon the full power of his spirit to aid her followers in battle. She no longer cares about subtlety or hiding her connection to the dark side. This is a fight for survival that demands everything she's learned about Sith magic. Freedon Nadd's spirit answers her call with enthusiasm because this moment represents exactly what he's been working toward. His ghostly presence flows through the tomb and out into the battle above, strengthening every defender who serves the corrupt regime he helped create. The dark side power that Nadd channels into the fight changes everything immediately. Aminoa's followers find themselves enhanced by abilities they never possessed before. Their weapons strike harder, their movements become faster, and their determination grows beyond normal human limits. The attacking coalition of Jedi and Beast Riders begins to falter under this supernatural onslaught. Forces that seemed certain of victory just moments before now struggle against enemies who fight with power that defies explanation. The tide of battle shifts as Nadd's influence spreads across the battlefield like poison. But Arca-Jeth recognizes what's happening before the situation becomes hopeless. The Arcanian Jedi Master senses the source of the dark side energy that's empowering their enemies. His experience and wisdom guide him to the real heart of this conflict, buried beneath the palace in a tomb that radiates evil. Arca makes his way to Nadd's burial chamber while the battle rages above. The descent into darkness becomes both literal and metaphorical as he approaches the source of corruption that has plagued Onderon for centuries. Each step brings him closer to a confrontation that will determine the fate of an entire world. In the tomb, Arca-Jeth faces the accumulated malevolence of generations. Freedon Nadd's spirit confronts this representative of everything he once was and everything he chose to abandon. The meeting between light and darkness plays out in a chamber where death should have ended all influence long ago. Arca uses the light side of the Force to disrupt Nadd's connection to the physical world. His power flows against the dark side energy like clean water washing away poison. The confrontation becomes a battle between opposing philosophies that have shaped galactic history for millennia. The Jedi Master's intervention turns the tide of the entire battle. Freedon Nadd's spirit gets cast out of the conflict, severing the supernatural aid that was empowering Aminoa's forces. The dark side energy that flowed through the tomb and into the streets of Iziz suddenly vanishes like a candle being blown out. Without Nadd's power sustaining her, Queen Aminoa collapses in the chamber where she sought salvation. The darkness that has consumed her family for generations gets driven from her body, but the process proves too much for her corrupted form to survive. She dies as the Battle of Iziz reaches its conclusion above. The Beast Riders and Jedi emerge victorious from a conflict that has raged for longer than most civilizations remember their own founding. The centuries of warfare between the city and the exiles finally comes to an end with the fall of the regime that started it all. For the moment, it seems like Freedon Nadd's hold on Onderon has finally been broken. His spirit has been banished, his followers defeated, and his last royal descendant lies dead in his tomb. The evil that has plagued this world since his original conquest appears to have been cleansed at last. But Nadd has survived setbacks before, and death has already proven insufficient to stop his plans. Somewhere in the darkness between worlds, the spirit that refused to accept its own mortality begins plotting its next move in a game that spans centuries. Peace never lasts long when someone refuses to accept defeat. King Omen is about to prove that losing a war doesn't always mean giving up the fight. The victory over Queen Aminoa and the end of the Beast Wars should have brought lasting peace to Onderon. The Jedi succeeded in their mission. The exiled Beast Riders could finally return home, and the dark side corruption that plagued the planet seemed to be fading away. But one person wasn't ready to accept this new reality. King Omen still lives despite his wife's death and the collapse of everything they built together. His frail body depends on life support machinery to keep functioning, but his mind remains sharp and his hatred burns as strong as ever. The decrepit ruler watches from his mechanical chair as Jedi and Beast Riders celebrate their triumph over everything he holds sacred. The sight of his enemies enjoying victory fills Omen with rage that overcomes his physical weakness. He refuses to let the Jedi walk away thinking they've won permanently. His connection to the dark side may have weakened with Aminoa's death, but he still remembers the lessons that Freedon Nadd taught him over the years. Using arcane knowledge that most people would consider impossible, Omen reaches across the barrier between life and death to summon his spiritual mentor back from the void. The ritual requires power that pushes his failing body to its limits, but desperation drives him beyond what should be possible. Freedon Nadd's spirit responds to the call because this represents exactly the kind of opportunity he's been waiting for. His banishment from the previous battle was only temporary, and now he has another chance to achieve his goals through a willing servant. The ghost appears before Omen with enthusiasm for the revenge they can plan together. The Spectre and the King plot their response to the Jedi victory with the patience of those who understand that the best revenge requires careful preparation. Nadd instructs Omen to gather supporters who still believe in the old ways, people who never accepted the changes that came with peace. Many Onderonians secretly worshipped Nadd throughout the Beast Wars, despite the official conflict. These hidden followers maintained their faith in his teachings even when doing so became dangerous. Now Omen rallies these Naddists into a fanatical force, ready to fight for the return of their spiritual leader's influence. The secret army grows larger than anyone expects because Nadd's corruption ran deeper through Onderonian society than the Jedi realized. Generations of his influence created believers who see the current peace as a betrayal of everything their planet once represented under his rule. Omen appoints a dark Jedi warrior named Warb Null as his field commander. This acolyte represents the best of Nadd's teachings, someone who combines lightsaber skills with Sith sorcery in ways that make him incredibly dangerous. Null becomes the military leader of an uprising that aims to restore the old order through force. The perfect moment for their strike arrives during Queen Aminoa's funeral procession. The ceremony provides cover for moving Nadd's sarcophagus, which the Jedi plan to transport off-world along with Aminoa's body. The decision to remove his remains represents an attempt to break his connection to Onderon permanently. But Omen and Nadd have different plans for that sarcophagus. As the funeral parade moves through the streets of Iziz, the Naddist army springs their carefully planned trap. The attack catches everyone off guard because no one expected organized resistance so soon after the peace settlement. The Honor Guard and Jedi struggle to respond to an assault that comes from multiple directions simultaneously. Omen's followers fight with the desperation of true believers, while their enemies try to protect a ceremonial procession that was never designed for combat situations. In the chaos of the street fighting, the insurgents succeed in their primary objective. They snatch both Freedon Nadd's sarcophagus and Aminoa's coffin before retreating into the Undercity beneath Iziz. The theft represents more than just recovering artifacts. It restores Nadd's physical presence to the world he once ruled. Ulic Qel-Droma and the other Jedi pursue the attackers into the underground tunnels that honeycomb the ancient city. The chase leads them deeper into darkness, where Omen has prepared his stronghold using knowledge that spans generations of Sith influence. In the depths below Iziz, the Jedi team confronts King Omen in his element. The frail ruler sits in his life support chair, surrounded by technology and sorcery that keep him alive while amplifying his connection to the dark side. His underground lair becomes a fortress where he can draw on power that the surface world never allowed. Freedon Nadd's spirit manifests in the shadows around his servant, no longer hiding the relationship that sustained Omen for so many years. The ghost aids his student openly now because subtlety no longer serves their purposes. This is war, and they intend to win through overwhelming force rather than careful manipulation. With Nadd's help, Omen's sorcery proves more powerful than the Jedi anticipated. The combination of living will and spectral knowledge creates abilities that overwhelm their defenses. Master Arca Jeth finds himself outmatched by an enemy who draws strength from sources beyond normal understanding. The dark side triumphs in this initial clash as Arca Jeth gets seized and taken captive by forces he underestimated. Nadd intended this capture as both a practical victory and personal revenge against the Jedi Master who banished him from the previous battle. Now he can work on corrupting his enemy through methods that go beyond simple combat. But the Jedi don't abandon their leader to whatever fate Omen and Nadd have planned. Ulic Qel-Droma and his companions regroup and send urgent messages to the Jedi Council and the Republic requesting immediate reinforcements. They recognize that this situation has escalated beyond what their small team can handle alone. The response comes quickly because the Republic understands the implications of renewed Sith activity. A task force arrives on Onderon with both military personnel and additional Jedi Knights prepared for a larger conflict than the original peacekeeping mission. A second battle for Aziz begins with Republic forces storming Omen's underground stronghold. The fighting becomes known as the Freedon Nadd Uprising, named after the spirit whose influence drives the entire conflict. The assault succeeds in freeing Arca from captivity before worse corruption can take hold. Confronted by the full might of the Republic military and reinforced Jedi forces, King Omen's uprising begins to crumble despite the supernatural aid he receives. The fanatical devotion of his followers proves insufficient against enemies who combine superior numbers with better organization. Seeing his pawn failing, Freedon Nadd makes a calculated decision to withdraw his support from Omen. The spirit has learned that backing lost causes wastes energy that could be better invested elsewhere. His abandonment of the king represents cold pragmatism. Without Nadd's sustaining energy, Omen gets quickly overwhelmed by Jedi, who no longer face supernatural opposition. His life support systems and dark side knowledge prove inadequate against opponents who fight with both skill and numbers on their side. At this critical moment, two unexpected figures arrive on Onderon, seeking the kind of knowledge that the current battle threatens to destroy forever. Satal Keto and Alima Keto, aristocrats from the Empress Teta system, have come looking for dark lore with a stolen Sith spellbook to trade. The timing of their arrival couldn't be worse for establishing any meaningful contact with Omen. They find the king just as the Republic assault reaches its climax, cutting short any possibility of extended negotiations or teaching sessions. Omen suffers mortal wounds in the fighting that follows, his frail body finally succumbing to damage that his machinery and magic can no longer repair. As he lies dying in his underground stronghold, Freedon Nadd appears one final time at his servant's side. The spirit executes King Omen with a blast of dark side power that serves multiple purposes. The act punishes his failure while demonstrating Nadd's displeasure to any witnesses. It also represents spite against the Jedi, who think they've achieved something meaningful by defeating his student. Before departing, Nadd delivers a defiant message to Arca that the Jedi have not truly won and that the Sith will rise again. The prophecy represents both threat and promise, suggesting that his influence will continue even after this defeat. But Master Arca has prepared for this moment throughout the entire conflict. He calls on the Force to unleash light that banishes Freedon Nadd's spirit from Onderon permanently. The technique drives away the spectral form that has haunted this world for centuries. The banishment finally cleanses Onderon of the darkness that has plagued it since Nadd's original conquest. His direct influence over the planet ends with this defeat, marking the conclusion of an era that began with his arrival as a young Dark Lord seeking a kingdom to rule. The Onderonian Civil War reaches its end with the deaths of both Omen and Amanoa. Their heirs, like Princess Galaya, embrace peace with the Beast Riders and reject the dark side teachings that brought so much suffering to their world. Freedon Nadd's specter retreats to the void, vanquished by Jedi power that proves stronger than his will to dominate. But his saga continues on a different path because some influences spread beyond the places where they first took root. Sometimes moving a problem somewhere else just means giving it room to grow bigger. The Jedi are about to learn this lesson the hard way. After driving Nadd's spirit away from Onderon, the Jedi think they need to do something about his physical remains. His body still sits in the tomb beneath the palace, where it has been gathering dark side energy for centuries. Leaving it there feels like asking for trouble, especially after seeing what his spirit could accomplish when working through willing servants. The solution seems obvious to the Jedi Council. They decide to move Nadd's remains somewhere far from populated areas where his influence can't touch innocent people. Along with his body, they also relocate the corpses of King Omin and Queen Amanoa, the descendants who helped him cause so much trouble. The new burial site gets built on Duxon, the demon moon that orbits around Onderon like a smaller world filled with dangerous creatures. The choice makes sense because few beings would willingly travel to such a hostile place. The moon's reputation for harboring monsters should keep curious treasure hunters and would-be Sith apprentices away from the tomb. The Jedi construct the burial chamber using Mandalorian iron, one of the strongest materials in the galaxy. They stock it with dark artifacts from Omin's collection and treasures from Nadd's original hoard, effectively creating a museum of evil that gets locked away from the rest of civilization. The tomb becomes more than just a burial site. It transforms into a vault containing centuries of accumulated Sith knowledge and power. Ancient weapons, forbidden books, and magical devices filled chambers carved deep into Duxon's rocky surface. The Jedi hope that hiding these dangerous items will prevent them from corrupting future generations. The fierce beasts that roam Duxon provide natural security for the tomb. Creatures that evolved on this demon moon don't welcome visitors, and their attacks should discourage anyone brave enough or foolish enough to come looking for Nadd's grave. The hidden location adds another layer of protection against discovery. During the ceremony to dedicate the new tomb, something unexpected happens that ruins the Jedi's sense of accomplishment. Freedon Nadd's ghost appears on Onderon one final time, proving that moving his body didn't break his connection to the world he once ruled. The spirit confronts Ulic Qel-Droma directly, choosing the young Jedi for a conversation that feels more like a threat wrapped in friendly advice. Nadd warns him not to interfere with what he calls the coming rise of the Sith. The prophecy suggests that recent events on Onderon represent just the beginning of something much larger. When Ulic rejects the warning and stands firm in his commitment to the Jedi path, Nadd delivers a prediction that chills everyone who hears it. He tells the young knight that he will become one of the Great Ones, speaking with the certainty of someone who can see the future unfolding exactly as he wants it to. The prophecy feels impossible to those who know Ulic's dedication to the light side. This is a Jedi who just helped save Onderon from dark side corruption. The idea that he might fall to the same evil he fought against seems ridiculous to everyone except the spirit who speaks with such confidence. With his message delivered, Freedon Nadd departs Onderon for good and takes up residence in the Duxon tomb that now houses his remains. The burial site becomes his new base of operations, a place where his spirit can work without interference from Jedi or anyone else who might try to stop his plans. Although banished from Onderon, Nadd's influence doesn't disappear. He simply redirects his attention toward new students who showed up at exactly the right moment to benefit from his teachings. Satul and Alima Keto, the nobles from Empress Teta who came seeking dark knowledge, become his latest projects. Nadd guided the cousins to safety during the chaos of Omin's failed uprising, protecting them from the Republic forces that might have arrested or killed them for their association with the rebellion. His intervention ensures that these promising students survive to learn what he has to teach. For months after the uprising's end, Nadd's spirit appears regularly to Alima and Satal at his Duxon tomb. The remote location provides perfect privacy for lessons that would horrify the Jedi if they knew what was happening so close to their recent victory. The training sessions cover everything Nadd learned during his own journey from Jedi Apprentice to Sith Lord. He teaches them magic that bends reality to their will, shows them how to channel emotions into raw power, and shares secrets that predate most galactic civilizations. Under his guidance, the cousins grow rapidly in abilities that normal education could never provide. They master techniques that would take decades to learn through trial and error, absorbing knowledge that spans centuries of Sith development. Nadd doesn't just teach them magic. He also gives them artifacts from his collection, ancient items that amplify their natural abilities and provide tools for the work he has planned. Amulets and swords that once belonged to long-dead Sith lords now serve his newest students. Armed with forbidden knowledge and powerful artifacts, Satal and Alima return to their home star system of Empress Tita. The wealthy worlds of their family's influence become the testing ground for everything Nadd has taught them about seizing and holding power. The coup they launch catches everyone by surprise because no one expects trouble from respected noble families. Under the cover of a secret society they call the Krath, the cousins overthrow the Titan government and install themselves as rulers who openly embrace dark side philosophy. Their success marks the beginning of a new Sith threat in the galaxy, exactly as Freedon Nadd planned from the moment he first encountered them. His influence has spread beyond Onderon to infect another star system with the corruption he represents. The Krath cult that emerges from their takeover becomes something the galaxy hasn't seen for generations. These new Sith don't hide their nature or work in shadows. They declare war on the Galactic Republic and the Jedi Order openly, unleashing attacks that showcase abilities most people thought were just legends. Living Sith magic becomes their signature weapon, horrors that defy understanding as they consume everything in their path. The techniques Nadd taught them allow the Krath to create weapons out of pure dark side energy, turning their enemies' fears into reality. Their most devastating attack comes during a Jedi gathering on the world of Denabah, where the Order's leaders meet to discuss the growing Sith threat. The Krath stage an ambush that catches the Jedi completely off guard, proving that these new enemies possess both power and tactical intelligence. Master Arca Jeth dies in the fighting that follows, struck down by enemies who learned their skills from the same spirit he once banished from Onderon. The irony isn't lost on those who understand the connection between Nadd's teachings and the weapons that killed the Jedi Master. Arca's death fulfills part of Nadd's prophecy while setting up the rest. The Jedi Master who drove him away from Onderon has fallen, just as the Spirit predicted. Now the second part of his vision begins to unfold as Ulic Qel-Droma reacts to his mentor's loss. Grief and anger drive Ulic toward exactly the kind of choices that Nadd foresaw during their last conversation. The young Jedi who rejected the Spirit's warnings now finds himself consumed by emotions that the dark side can easily exploit. Ulic decides to infiltrate the Krath and destroy them from within, believing his commitment to the light side will protect him from corruption. The plan seems reasonable to someone who doesn't understand how the dark side works through the very emotions that motivate his mission. Instead of destroying the Krath, Ulic succumbs to their influence and joins forces with Alima Keto as a Sith warlord. His fall happens exactly as Nadd predicted, proving that the dead Dark Lord's understanding of the future was more accurate than anyone wanted to believe. The Sith have indeed risen again, just as Freedon Nadd warned they would. His students now command star systems and wage war against the Republic using knowledge he preserved across centuries. But this resurgence represents only the beginning of his final plan, which involves another curious Jedi who seeks the power of the Ancients. The most dangerous teacher is one who hides their true plans until it's too late to escape. Freedon Nadd has found his perfect student, but this lesson won't end the way either of them expects. Around the same time that the Krath are spreading their influence across the galaxy, another Jedi Knight becomes curious about the same dark secrets that destroyed so many before him. Exar represents everything the Order values in a student, but his thirst for knowledge goes beyond what his teachers consider safe or wise. Through a Jedi holocron, Kun learns about Freedon Nadd and the incredible story of the fallen Jedi who became a Sith king. The tale fascinates him because it shows how someone with Jedi training could achieve power that goes far beyond what the Order normally teaches. The idea that such abilities exist somewhere in the galaxy becomes an obsession he can't shake. His master, Vodo Siosk Bas, warns him against pursuing these dangerous interests. The wise teacher recognizes the signs of a student who might be tempted by shortcuts to power that always come with terrible prices. But Kun ignores the warnings and decides to seek out Nadd's artifacts and knowledge for himself. The journey takes him to Onderon and its demon moon Duxin, where recent events have made the local Jedi very protective of anything connected to Sith influence. The custodians refuse to give Kun access to Nadd's remains or relics, forcing him to find another way to get what he's looking for. In the streets of Iziz, Kun discovers that Nadd's influence didn't disappear completely when the Jedi drove away his spirit. Secret followers still exist among the population, people who remember what life was like under their former king's rule. Two of these Naddist sympathizers agree to help the curious Jedi reach what he seeks. They guide Exar to the tomb on Duxin, where Nadd's remains and treasures wait behind defenses that should keep anyone from disturbing them. The vault was built to be impregnable, but determination and local knowledge prove stronger than Jedi security measures. Breaking into the sealed tomb awakens something that has been waiting for exactly this kind of opportunity. Freedon Nadd's spirit stirs from its slumber as Exar enters the chamber where so much dark side energy has been concentrated over the years. The ghost immediately senses the immense ambition and hunger for power that drives this new visitor. Nadd recognizes qualities in Kun that remind him of his own younger self, back when he was still a Jedi who believed he deserved more than his teachers were willing to give him. More importantly, Nadd realizes that Exar might finally be the key to achieving what Omen and Amanoa could never accomplish. This Jedi possesses the kind of raw ability that could potentially perform the resurrection ritual that would restore Nadd to full life. Playing the role of helpful mentor, Nadd begins guiding Kun deeper into Sith exploration. He shows him a hidden scroll inside his own sarcophagus, an ancient document that details what happened to Naga Sadow after the fall of the Old Empire. The information serves as bait to lead Kun toward the next step in his corruption. Nadd instructs his new student to journey to Korriban, the ancient Sith homeworld, where greater tests and knowledge await. The suggestion appeals to Kun's desire for forbidden learning, and he eagerly follows the advice without understanding the true intentions behind it. On Korriban, Exar finds himself under attack by ancient Sith spirits that guard the Valley of the Dark Lords. These phantoms don't welcome visitors, especially Jedi who might disturb the rest of their long-dead masters. The assault injures Kun and leaves him calling out for help in desperation. Freedon Nadd's spirit answers the call, appearing to rescue his student from dangers that seem beyond his ability to handle alone. The rescue leads Kun into an abandoned Sith temple where he thinks he'll find safety from the attacking phantoms. But the rescue is actually another test designed to push Kun closer to the breaking point. Nadd seals him inside the temple and leads him deeper into its dark corridors, away from any possibility of escape or outside help. In the temple's depths, Nadd springs his trap. He crushes Kun under tons of rubble that shatter his body and leave him agonizingly close to death. The young Jedi finds himself trapped and broken, facing oblivion, while his supposed mentor watches without offering aid. Kun tries to reach out through the Force to summon his Jedi Master for help, but Nadd interferes with the connection and cuts off his plea before it can reach its destination. The Spirit wants his student completely isolated and dependent on whatever salvation he chooses to offer. With Kun at his mercy, Freedon Nadd presents a simple choice: embrace the dark side and let its power heal his injuries, or die here in the ruins of an ancient temple where no one will ever find his body. The offer represents exactly the kind of moment that defines a person's entire future. Facing death, Exar Kun finally gives in to temptation. He opens himself to hatred and dark side energy that floods through him like poison mixed with medicine. The power heals his broken body while corrupting his soul, saving his life by destroying everything he once stood for. In that moment of surrender, Kun falls to the dark side just as Nadd intended from their first meeting. The transformation satisfies the dead Dark Lord, who proclaims himself Kun's new Sith Master and claims the resurrected man as his apprentice. With his student's corruption complete, Nadd leads him through one final test on Korriban. He goads Kun into slaughtering a pack of Tuk'ata without using his lightsaber, forcing him to rely entirely on dark side power and his own fury to destroy the creatures. Kun complies eagerly, drawing on anger and hatred to annihilate the beasts with nothing but the Force. The display proves to everyone watching that he has become one with the dark side, demonstrating power that no Jedi would ever use. Pleased with his student's progress, Nadd guides him to Yavin 4 for the final stage of his plan. The ancient moon where Naga Sadow once ruled holds temples and laboratories that will serve their ultimate purpose perfectly. On Yavin 4, the primitive Massassi capture Exar Kun and attempt to sacrifice him to a monstrous Sith worm in one of Sadow's old temples. The creatures see him as an offering to their ancient traditions, rather than recognizing his growing power. As the worm attacks, Nadd's spirit yells for Kun to save himself using everything he's learned about the dark side. The student responds by ripping a Sith amulet from a statue of Sadow, amplifying his abilities beyond anything he's experienced before. The enhanced power lets Kun obliterate both the giant worm and the Massassi guards in a display of destruction that leaves the survivors bowing to him as their new master. The demonstration convinces Nadd that he has finally found someone capable of achieving his ultimate goal. Nadd reveals his true plan to Exar Kun at last. He needs his apprentice to create a living body for his spirit through Sith sorcery, allowing him to return to full life and reclaim his place in the physical world. The resurrection would restore everything he lost when the Jedi killed his original body centuries ago. But Nadd has badly misjudged his student. Exar Kun has no intention of becoming anyone's pawn, especially not someone who manipulated and nearly killed him to achieve his own ends. The constant domination has become intolerable to someone who sought power for himself rather than service to another. The newly empowered Dark Jedi refuses Nadd's command and renounces his authority completely. The student has surpassed his master and no longer needs the guidance that brought him this far. Enraged by this defiance, Freedon Nadd threatens his rebellious apprentice. But the threat comes too late because Kun has already decided to act. Drawing on the vast energies of the Sith amulet, he blasts Nadd's spirit with dark side power that catches the ancient ghost completely off guard. The attack staggers Nadd, causing his spectral form to flicker like a dying flame. But Kun isn't finished. He unleashes another full-power assault that tears the spirit apart with energies that wound him on the very plane of existence where he's been hiding for so long. Freedon Nadd suffers a second death, this one permanent and final. His essence begins to dissolve as the dark side energy he taught Kun to wield gets turned against him with devastating effect. With his last moments before fading into nothingness, Nadd appears one final time to Alima and Satal Keto in their distant stronghold. He warns them about Exar Kun's treachery and rising power, naming him a pretender who betrayed the teacher who made him strong. Nadd declares that the true future of the Sith lies with the trio he guided to darkness: Alima, Satal, and Ulik Keldroma. These followers represent his real legacy. With that final proclamation, Freedon Nadd's spirit fades into the void forever. The man who began as a promising Jedi, ruled as a Sith king, and haunted the galaxy as a restless ghost finally meets his end at the hands of someone he created. The boy who wanted to be the greatest Jedi who ever lived destroyed himself trying to become the most powerful Sith instead. His student became strong enough to kill even death itself.